They took me away in handcuffs at 6:17 in the morning. I know the exact time because I kept staring at the kitchen clock, trying to understand how my life had collapsed in less than 4 minutes. Before we continue, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching. I was still in my pajamas, pink cotton ones with little flowers that my late husband Tom bought me 8 Christmases ago. The elastic on the pants was loose, and I had to shuffle carefully so they wouldn't fall down as Officer Derek Morris guided me toward the patrol car. My neighbors were already outside. Mrs. Chen from next door had her phone out, filming. The Coopers across the street stood on their porch, mouths open. And Kayla, my daughter-in-law, was doing a live stream on Instagram. "This is the hardest thing I've ever had to do," she said into her phone, tears running down her face that I knew were fake because I'd seen her practice that exact expression in my bathroom mirror 3 weeks ago. "But I have to protect my baby. I have to protect Mia." Brett, my son, stood behind her with our 10-month-old granddaughter in his arms. He wouldn't look at me, 35 years old, and he couldn't even look his own mother in the eye. "Ma'am, watch your head," Officer Morris said, not unkindly, as he helped me into the back seat. The handcuffs bit into my wrists. I'd never worn handcuffs before. I'd never even gotten a speeding ticket. 4 minutes earlier, I'd been holding Mia in the nursery, singing her the same lullaby I used to sing to Brett when he was a baby. She'd been fussy all morning, running a slight fever, and Kayla had asked me to watch her while she ran a quick errand. That errand, I realized now, was driving exactly 2 blocks away and calling 911. "My mother-in-law hurt my baby," she'd screamed into the phone, loud enough for me to hear through the baby monitor. "She's been rough with her for weeks, and I just saw her do something to Mia's arm. Please, you have to come now. I'm afraid of what she'll do if I confront her." I'd walked downstairs with Mia still in my arms, confused, and found Kayla in the living room, phone to her ear, pointing at me like I was a stranger who'd broken into her house. "She's right there. She still has my baby." Brett had rushed in from the garage, grabbed Mia from my arms without a word, and stepped away from me like I was diseased. "Mom, what did you do?" he'd asked, but his voice was flat, rehearsed. "I didn't do anything," I'd said. "Brett, honey, I was just singing to her. She has a little fever, that's all. Don't call me honey. Don't ever touch my daughter again." Those words came from the child I'd raised alone after Tom died in that car accident when Brett was 7. The child I'd worked 2 jobs for, librarian by day, office cleaner by night, for 11 years straight, so he could go to St. Margaret's Prep instead of the public school. The child I'd given $18,000 to, my entire retirement savings from the library, so Kayla could open that salon of hers that was definitely going to be huge. She'd promised to pay me back when the business took off. That was 14 months ago. I'd never seen a dollar. Now, sitting in the back of the patrol car, I watched Kayla through the window. She'd positioned herself perfectly in the frame, the house visible behind her, looking every bit the traumatized young mother. Her Instagram notification sounds were going off constantly. Ding, ding, ding. "Phase 1 complete," I heard her whisper to someone. I turned my head slightly. Brenda, my cousin, was standing on the sidewalk about 15 feet away. She'd appeared exactly 4 minutes after the police arrived, which would have been impossible unless she'd been waiting nearby. Brenda, who'd told me at Tom's funeral that I'd gotten all the luck in the family with the house Tom and I had bought together in 1987. Brenda, who'd asked to borrow money 6 times in the last year and gotten angry each time I said no. With her were her 2 teenagers, Ethan and Sophia, 16 and 14. Good kids, I'd thought. I'd babysat them dozens of times when they were little. Ethan was talking to Officer Morris's partner, a younger cop with a notepad. "Yeah, I've seen my Aunt Janice be really rough with the baby," he was saying, like grabbing her arms hard. "My mom told me to pay attention in case something happened." My stomach turned to ice. "Now the house is ours," Kayla whispered to Brenda, just loud enough for me to hear through the half-open window. "She'll never step foot in it again." Brenda smiled, actually smiled. Then she walked over to the patrol car and knocked on the window. Officer Morris told her to step back, but she leaned in close anyway. "You should have just signed the house over when I asked nicely, Jan," she said, her voice sweet as poison. "Would have been so much easier." The car pulled away from the curb. I looked back at my house, the house Tom and I had painted blue together the summer after we got married, the house where Brett took his first steps, the house where I'd lived for 37 years, and I saw Kayla still filming, still crying for the camera. Her view count was at 11,000, in 4 minutes. I realized then that this wasn't spontaneous. This wasn't a panicked mother protecting her child. This was planned. The timing, Brenda's arrival, Ethan's rehearsed statement, even the fact that Kayla had asked me to babysit on a Tuesday morning when she normally worked at the salon, they'd planned this. My own son had helped them plan this. At the station, they put me in a small room with a table and 2 chairs. Officer Morris brought me a cup of water in a paper cup. I noticed his nameplate more clearly now. Detective Derek Morris, not just officer. He had gray at his temples and tired eyes. "Mrs. Fuller," he said, sitting across from me. "I need to ask you some questions about this morning." "I didn't hurt that baby," I said. My voice came out stronger than I expected. "I've never hurt Mia. I would never hurt any child." "Your daughter-in-law says otherwise. She says you've been aggressive with the baby for weeks." "My daughter-in-law is lying." He wrote something down. "Why would she lie about something like this?" "Because she wants my house." He looked up at me then, really looked at me for the first time. "Your house? It's worth about $340,000, maybe more, and she knows I'd never sign it over while I'm alive." The words tumbled out. "She's been pressuring me for months to update my estate plan. That's what she calls it. She wants Brett to inherit everything now, while she can control it." Detective Morris was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "That's a serious accusation. It's the truth, and my cousin Brenda is in on it. She wants a piece of the sale. I heard them talking just now outside before you drove away." He made another note. I could see he was writing more this time. "Detective," I said, leaning forward as much as the handcuffs would allow, "please, check my granddaughter. Really check her. Take her to a hospital with a pediatrician who doesn't know Kayla. Because whatever injuries she's claiming exist, I didn't cause them. The baby's being examined now," he said. "Protocol. Then you'll see I'm telling the truth." He stood up. "Wait here, Mrs. Fuller. I'll be back." I sat alone in that room for what felt like hours, but was probably only 40 minutes. The clock on the wall said 7:53 when Detective Morris came back. He had a manila envelope in his hand and an expression I couldn't read. "Mrs. Fuller," he said slowly, sitting down again. "The pediatric nurse at Dayton Children's Hospital just sent over the examination results for your granddaughter." My heart was hammering. "And? There are no injuries, no bruising, no indication of rough handling, nothing. The baby has a mild fever, probably from teething and some diaper rash. That's it." The relief hit me so hard I thought I might be sick. "Then I can go home?" "Not yet." He opened the envelope and pulled out several printed photographs. The nurse found something else. "Your daughter-in-law posted photos on Instagram this morning, about an hour before she called 911. Photos of the baby with what appeared to be bruises on her arms." He turned the photos toward me. There was Mia in Kayla's arms, with dark marks on her little forearms. "But the nurse says those marks aren't in the hospital examination photos taken 30 minutes ago," Detective Morris continued, "which means either the bruises healed impossibly fast, or they were never real." "Makeup," I whispered. "She used makeup." "That's what the nurse thinks too. She says the marks in your daughter-in-law's photos have uniform edges and color saturation consistent with cosmetics, not actual contusions." He pulled out another paper. "She's filing a formal report with Child Protective Services. False reporting of child abuse is a crime, Mrs. Fuller. So I'm free to go? Soon, but there's something else." He hesitated. "Your son's phone. We have probable cause to examine it based on the false report. And, Mrs. Fuller," he paused, "I think you need to see what we found." Detective Morris left the room with my son's phone in an evidence bag. Through the small window in the door, I could see him talking to another detective, a woman with short gray hair. They kept looking at a computer screen and then at each other with expressions I couldn't quite read. I was alone again. The clock said 8:47 a.m. Less than 3 hours ago, I'd been singing to my granddaughter. Now I was sitting in a police interrogation room, still in Tom's old Christmas pajamas, trying to understand how deep this betrayal went. A female officer brought me a sandwich around 9:30. Turkey on white bread, wilted lettuce, a packet of mustard. "Your lawyer's on her way," she said. "Should be here in 20 minutes. I didn't call a lawyer. Someone named Sandra Owens called the station an hour ago. Says she's represented you before?" Sandra. Of course. She'd handled Tom's estate after he died and then helped me with some property tax issues 2 years ago. But I hadn't called her, which meant someone else had. Someone who knew I'd need help. Did she say who contacted her? The officer shrugged. Didn't ask. Just said she was coming. Sandra arrived at 10:15, carrying her leather briefcase and wearing the same no-nonsense expression she'd had when she'd fought the county assessor over my property valuation. She was 52, sharp as a knife, and didn't waste time on pleasantries. "Janice," she said, sitting down across from me after the officer left. "Tell me everything." I did, the whole story, starting with Kayla asking me to babysit, ending with Detective Morris mentioning Brett's phone. Sandra took notes in her precise handwriting, stopping me occasionally to ask for specific details, times, exact words, who was where when. "And you heard Kayla say Phase 1 complete to your cousin?" "Yes, right after they put me in the patrol car." Sandra tapped her pen against her notepad. "That's premeditation. That's conspiracy." She looked up at me. "Janice, this is worse than you think. How could it possibly be worse?" She pulled out her own phone and turned it toward me. On the screen was Kayla's Instagram profile. The video from this morning had 47,000 views. Below it, a caption, "Breaking. I had to make the hardest choice of my life today. My mother-in-law has been hurting my baby for weeks, and this morning I finally saw her do it. I called the police. I'm shaking as I write this. Please pray for baby Mia. Protect our children. Toxic family. Mom life." The comments were endless. Hundreds of them. "You're so brave. I'm crying for you. That monster should be locked up forever. How could a grandmother do that?" "Keep scrolling," Sandra said. I scrolled. There were more posts. Photos of Mia with Kayla, both of them smiling. Captions about finding the strength to protect my daughter from family toxicity and choosing my child over people who raised me. There was even a link. "What's this?" I asked, clicking it. "A GoFundMe," Sandra said flatly. She set it up 6 hours ago. "Help us recover from family trauma and legal fees." She's asking for $15,000. The page loaded. The fundraiser already had $2,340 in donations. From strangers. People who believed Kayla's story without question. I felt something break inside me that I didn't know could break. "She's making money off this. She's monetizing your arrest," Sandra corrected. "And it gets worse. Detective Morris called me 20 minutes ago. Kayla filed a petition this morning for an emergency mental competency evaluation. She's claiming you have dementia with violent episodes and need to be placed under psychiatric observation." The room tilted. "What?" "If a judge grants it, you could be involuntarily committed for up to 72 hours while doctors evaluate you. And during that time, she's requesting temporary guardianship of your assets for your own protection. She wants my house. She wants everything. The house, your accounts, your car, everything." Sandra closed her notepad. "Janice, I need you to understand something. This isn't a family dispute. This is a calculated attempt to take control of your life and your property, and your son is part of it. Brett hasn't called to check on you. He hasn't posted anything defending you. He appeared in Kayla's video at 7:43 this morning, and you know what he said?" She pulled up another video. It was shorter, shakier. Brett's face filled the screen. "My mom's been having some issues lately," he said, his voice cracking in exactly the right places. "Memory problems, confusion. We've been trying to get her help, but she refuses. And now this. I just want Mia to be safe." The video ended. 12,000 views in 2 hours. "He's building the narrative," Sandra said. "He's laying groundwork for the competency claim." I couldn't breathe. "He's my son. He's a grown man who's participating in elder abuse for financial gain." Sandra's voice was gentle but firm. "I know this hurts, but you need to see it clearly, or you won't survive what's coming next." Before I could respond, Detective Morris knocked on the door and entered. He had a tablet in his hand and that same unreadable expression. Mrs. Fuller, Ms. Owens, we've completed our preliminary examination of Brett Fuller's phone. He sat down and placed the tablet on the table between us. I need to show you something. He opened a messaging app, a group chat. The name at the top made my stomach drop. Operation Inheritance. There were 4 members, Kayla, Brett, Brenda, and someone listed as Sophie F. Sophia, Brenda's 14-year-old daughter. This chat was created 7 months ago, Detective Morris said. January 15th, 2024, the day after your granddaughter was born. He scrolled to the first messages. Kayla, Jan 15, 2024, 11:47 p.m. Okay, now that Mia's here, we need to talk seriously about the house situation. Jan's not going to live forever, but we can't wait that long. Brett and I need that money now. Brett, Jan 15, 2024, 11:52 p.m. I know, but how? She's not going to just give me the house. Kayla, Jan 15, 2024, 11:58 p.m. We make her, or we make her incompetent. Either way, the house becomes ours to manage. I couldn't look away from the screen. Detective Morris scrolled further. Months of messages, plans forming, being refined, being adjusted. Brenda joined the chat in March. Brenda, Mar 23, 2024, 3:15 p.m. I'm in, but I want 10% of the sale, and I'll bring Ethan and Sophia if you need witnesses for anything. Kayla, Mar 23, 2024, 3:22 p.m. Deal. Get them ready to say whatever we need. More scrolling. August. Kayla, Aug 23, 2024, 9:41 p.m. Brett, you just need to stay quiet and let me handle this. Your mom's old. Nobody's going to believe her over us. Think about our daughter. Brett, Aug 23, 2024, 9:55 p.m. I know, but I feel bad. Kayla, Aug 23, 2024, 10:03 p.m. You want Mia growing up poor? Your mother had her life. Now it's our turn. September 10th, 2 weeks ago. Kayla, Sept 2024, 2:17 p.m. Final plan. I'll get her to babysit on a Tuesday morning when I can control the timing. I'll stage the injury photos with makeup. I've been practicing. Brett, you grab the baby and act shocked. Brenda, you show up exactly 4 minutes after the cops with the kids ready to give statements. We all stick to the script. Brenda, Sept 2024, 2:20 p.m. Ethan and Sophie know what to say. Practiced it with them last night. Brett, Sept 2024, 2:34 p.m. And then what? Kayla, Sept 2024, 2:41 p.m. Then she gets arrested. I file for the competency hearing and we have the house on the market in 6 weeks. By Christmas, we're in a new place with money in the bank. Sandra was reading over my shoulder. My God. Detective Morris scrolled to this morning's messages, sent after I was already in the patrol car. Kayla, Sept 24, 2024, 7:29 a.m. She's in the car. Phase 1 complete. Morris bought the whole thing. Brenda, Sept 24, 2024, 7:31 a.m. Ethan gave his statement perfectly. You should have seen Jan's face when she heard it. Kayla, Sept 24, 2024, 7:35 a.m. Instagram is blowing up. 11K views already. This is going to be huge for my following. I pushed away from the table and stood up. My legs were shaking. I need to see the rest, I said. There's more, Detective Morris said quietly. Including evidence that your daughter-in-law has been underreporting income from her salon. The IRS might be interested in that. Sandra was already writing. I want copies of everything, every message, every photo, every piece of evidence. You'll have it, the detective said. He looked at me. Mrs. Fuller, I'm releasing you. No charges, and I'm recommending that the prosecutor's office open an investigation into fraud, conspiracy to commit elder abuse, and filing a false police report. What about Brett? The words came out before I could stop them. He's technically part of the conspiracy, but his participation appears more passive. The DA will decide whether to charge him. Passive. My son had passively agreed to destroy me. Sandra touched my arm. Janice, we need to move fast. That competency hearing request needs to be blocked, and we need to file criminal complaints against all of them. Today. I looked at her. All of them? Yes. Kayla, Brenda, and juvenile charges for Ethan and Sophia. They all participated knowingly. And Brett? Sandra's expression hardened. That's your decision. But legally, I'd advise— I'll do it, I said. File against all of them. They kept me at the station for 38 more hours. Not because I was under arrest, Detective Morris had made that clear, but because Sandra insisted I needed protective custody while she filed the emergency injunctions. If they know you're coming home, she'd said, they'll escalate. Brenda has keys to your house. God knows what they'll do. So I stayed in a holding cell that smelled like industrial cleaner and desperation, a cot with a thin mattress, a metal toilet, a sink that dripped every 7 seconds. I counted. The fluorescent lights never turned off completely, just dimmed to a sickly yellow at what I assumed was night. I didn't sleep the first night. Just lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to someone in another cell crying softly. The crying stopped around 4 a.m. The dripping continued. The second day, Sandra came back with papers for me to sign. Restraining orders against Kayla and Brenda, criminal complaints, a motion to freeze my bank accounts so no one could touch them while the case proceeded, affidavits, forms, so many forms. Your cousin tried to access your house last night, Sandra said, sliding a document across the small table in the visitor's room. Your neighbor Mrs. Chen called the police. Brenda told the officers she was checking on the property because you were mentally unwell and possibly dangerous. Did they arrest her? No, but it's documented. Another piece of evidence. Sandra pulled out her phone and showed me a new Instagram post from Kayla. The photo was of Brett holding Mia, both of them looking sad. The caption read, "Praying for healing and hoping my MIL gets the mental health help she desperately needs. Family is everything. Mental health matters. Chuck, family first. Pray for us." The post had 89,000 views. The GoFundMe was up to $4,020. She's still posting, I said numbly. Every 6 hours. She's built a narrative, and her followers are eating it up. Sandra put the phone away. But here's what matters. Detective Morris got a warrant for her salon's financial records. She's been underreporting income for 2 years. We're talking about $34,000 in undeclared cash transactions. The IRS is opening an investigation. I should have felt something. Satisfaction, maybe. Justice. But I just felt hollow. Janice, Sandra said carefully. Your son called my office this morning. My heart lurched despite itself. What did he say? He wanted to know if you were okay. He sounded, I don't know. Conflicted. Conflicted, I repeated. He helped plan this for 7 months, and now he's conflicted. Sandra was quiet for a moment. He asked if he could visit you. I told him no, but I need to know. If he tries to contact you directly, do you want to talk to him? I thought about Brett at 7 years old, crying in my arms the night we buried Tom. I thought about Brett at 16, winning the county spelling bee and scanning the audience until he found my face. I thought about Brett at 23, the day he graduated college, telling me I was the strongest person he knew. Then I thought about Brett yesterday morning, pulling Mia away from me like I was a stranger, refusing to look at me, standing silent in Kayla's video while she destroyed my reputation to 89,000 people. No, I said. I don't want to talk to him. That night, my second night in the cell, the memories came like a flood I couldn't stop. Brett at 6 months old, born 7 weeks premature because I'd slipped on ice in the library parking lot. He'd weighed 3 pounds, 4 ounces. The NICU nurses said it was touch and go. I'd slept in a chair next to his incubator for 14 nights straight until Tom forced me to go home and shower. Brett at 9, coming home from school with a black eye because he'd punched Tyler Morrison for saying his dad was dead because God was punishing our family. Tom had only been gone 2 years. I'd held Brett while he sobbed and told him his father was a hero, that the drunk driver who killed him was the only one who deserved punishment. Brett at 13, when the electricity got shut off because I'd been 3 months behind on the bill. I'd been working the day shift at the library and the night shift cleaning offices downtown, but it still wasn't enough. Brett had used flashlights to do his homework and never complained once. That was when I'd decided he'd go to St. Margaret's Prep, no matter what it cost. Private school meant opportunities. It meant college. It meant Brett wouldn't end up like me, scraping by, drowning in bills, buried alive by a system that didn't care. So I'd taken the second job, then a weekend job cleaning houses. For 11 years. 11 years of 4 hours of sleep a night. 11 years of eating ramen so Brett could have fresh vegetables. 11 years of wearing the same 3 outfits to work while Brett had new school uniforms every year. He'd gotten into Ohio State on a partial scholarship. I'd covered the rest, $47,000 over 4 years, taken from a home equity loan that I was still paying off. Would be paying off for another 8 years, if I lived that long. When he'd graduated, he'd hugged me and said, "Mom, I'm going to take care of you now. I promise. You'll never have to work so hard again." 2 years later, he'd married Kayla. Beautiful, ambitious Kayla, with her social media dreams and her expensive taste. I'd liked her at first. She'd seemed sweet, energetic. She'd called me Mom right away, which had made me feel warm inside. The warmth hadn't lasted long. 6 months into the marriage, Kayla had started talking about investment opportunities. The salon was her dream, she'd said. She just needed capital to get started. Brett had looked at me with those same eyes he'd had at 13, in the dark house with the flashlights, and asked if I could help. I'd given them $18,000, every penny I'd saved since paying off Brett's last semester of college, my entire retirement cushion from the library. "We'll pay you back within a year," Kayla had promised, with interest. "This is going to be huge, Mom." That was 14 months ago. I'd never seen a dollar. And 3 months ago, when I gently asked about a payment plan, Kayla had laughed and said, "Oh, Mom, that wasn't a loan. That was a gift. Family helps family." Now she was making $4,120 from strangers on the internet by calling me an abuser. I lay on that cot in the dim light and felt something crack open inside me. Not my heart, that had broken yesterday. This was deeper. This was the part of me that had believed in goodness, in fairness, in the idea that if you sacrificed enough, loved enough, gave enough, it would matter. It didn't matter. I'd given Brett everything, and he'd given me back to Kayla like a chess piece she could sacrifice. Around midnight, I heard footsteps in the hallway. The door opened. Detective Morris stood there with another officer and a woman in a rumpled blazer. "Mrs. Fuller," the woman said. "I'm Rebecca Lynn from the prosecutor's office. I need to ask you some questions about your relationship with your son and daughter-in-law." We talked for an hour. She recorded everything. I told her about the $18,000, about Kayla's escalating requests for me to update my estate plan, about how Brett had stopped visiting unless Kayla came with him, and how Kayla always steered every conversation back to my house. "When I die, Brett inherits everything," I explained. "The house, my savings, my pension, it's all in my will. But Kayla wants it now. She's been pressuring me to sign the house over to Brett as a gift for months. She says it would simplify things and save on taxes later." Rebecca wrote quickly. "And you refused?" "Every time. It's my house. Tom and I bought it together. I'm not giving it away while I'm still living in it." "So she found another way," Rebecca said quietly. "She found another way," I agreed. When Rebecca left, Detective Morris lingered in the doorway. "Mrs. Fuller, I'm sorry this happened to you." "Are you?" The words came out harsher than I meant them. "You believed her this morning. You put me in handcuffs based on her word alone." "I did," he admitted, "and I was wrong. For what it's worth, I'm going to make sure this is prosecuted to the fullest extent." "Will Brett be charged?" He hesitated. "That's up to the DA. His involvement was significant, but not as active as the others. He might get a plea deal." "A plea deal," I repeated. "He helped plan this for 7 months. He stood there and watched her lie. He took my granddaughter from me like I was a criminal, and he might get a plea deal." "I'm sorry," Detective Morris said again. After he left, I lay back down on the cot. The ceiling had a water stain shaped like a boot. I stared at it until my eyes burned. My phone, which they'd finally returned to me, buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. "Mom, please, can we talk? I'm so sorry. I didn't know it would go this far. Please, Brett." Using someone else's phone because I'd blocked his number months ago after the 10th estate planning conversation. My finger hovered over the keyboard. 10,000 things I wanted to say, 10,000 questions, 10,000 years of hurt compressed into a single moment. I deleted the message and turned off the phone. Sandra came to get me on the third morning. She had a navy suit on and her trial face, the one that meant she was ready for war. "We're going to court in 2 hours," she said. "The restraining order hearing. And I need you to be ready for what you're going to see." "What am I going to see?" "Your family. All of them." She drove me home first so I could shower and change. Mrs. Chen was watering her roses when we pulled up. She dropped the hose and rushed over. "Janice, oh my God, are you okay? I saw what happened." "I called the police when your cousin tried to break in." She lowered her voice. "I never believed that girl. Never. She's always been too sweet, you know? The fake kind of sweet." "Thank you for calling," I said. "It means more than you know." Inside, everything looked normal, almost peaceful. The morning light came through the kitchen window the same way it had for 37 years. My coffee mug was still in the sink from 2 mornings ago, when I'd washed it before Kayla called asking me to babysit. 2 mornings. It felt like 2 years. I showered, put on the gray pantsuit I'd worn to Tom's retirement party at the fire station, and met Sandra back in the living room. She had her laptop open on my coffee table. "Before we go, there's something else you need to see," she said. "Detective Morris sent this over an hour ago. More messages from Brett's phone. These are from a separate chat. Just Brett and Kayla, no one else." She turned the laptop toward me. The messages were from last night. "Kayla, Sept 25, 2024, 10:47 p.m. Your mom's lawyer blocked the competency hearing. We need Plan B. Brett, Sept 25, 2024, 10:52 p.m. What's Plan B? Kayla, Sept 25, 2024, 10:58 p.m. We convince everyone she's dangerous. I'll post about being afraid to let you visit her, about Mia having nightmares, about needing therapy. We build the case in public. Brett, Sept 25, 2024, 11:03 p.m. Kayla, I don't know if I can keep doing this. Kayla, Sept 25, 2024, 11:07 p.m. Then what? We lose the house? We keep struggling while your mom sits in that big house all alone? She's old, Brett. She doesn't need all that space. We do. Mia does. Brett, Sept 25, 2024, 11:15 p.m. I know, but she looked so small in that police car. I can't stop seeing her face. Kayla, Sept 25, 2024, 11:18 p.m. Then don't look. Look at our daughter instead. Look at our future. Your mom had her turn. This is ours. I read the messages twice, 3 times. Brett was wavering, guilty, but not guilty enough to stop. There's more, Sandra said. She scrolled down. These are from this morning, 6:47 a.m. Brett, Sept 26, 2024, 6:47 a.m. Kayla, the police called. They want me to come in for questioning today. Kayla, Sept 26, 2024, 6:49 a.m. Don't go. Tell them you need a lawyer first. Brett, Sept 26, 2024, 6:52 a.m. They said I'm not under arrest, just questioning. Kayla, Sept 26, 2024, 6:54 a.m. Brett, listen to me. If you talk to them, you'll mess everything up. Stick to the script. Your mom was acting erratic. You were concerned. You didn't know I was going to call the police. That's all you say. Brett, Sept 26, 2024, 7:01 a.m. What if they have evidence? What if they know about the group chat? Kayla, Sept 26, 2024, 7:03 a.m. They don't. And even if they do, you were just worried about your mom's mental health. You weren't part of any conspiracy. You're the victim here, too. Manipulated by your controlling mother and your stressed wife. Play that angle. Sandra closed the laptop. She's coaching him on how to lie to the police. Will it work? No. Because we have all of this. She gestured to the laptop. Every message, every plan, every lie. Brett might have been conflicted, but he was complicit. And Kayla just made it worse by instructing him to obstruct. We drove to the courthouse in silence. I watched Dayton roll past the window, the library where I'd worked for 23 years, the elementary school where Brett had learned to read, the church where we'd buried Tom. All of it felt distant now, like I was watching someone else's life. The courtroom was small, wood-paneled walls, an American flag in the corner. Judge Patricia Kowalski presiding. I recognized her name from the papers Sandra had shown me. She had gray hair pulled back tight and the kind of face that had seen everything twice. Kayla was already there with her lawyer, a thin man in an expensive suit. She'd dressed carefully, modest blue dress, minimal makeup, hair in a simple bun, the perfect image of a concerned young mother. When she saw me, she looked away quickly and dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Brenda sat 3 rows back with Ethan and Sophia. The teenagers looked uncomfortable, kept glancing at each other. Brenda stared straight ahead, her jaw tight. Brett wasn't there. The hearing took 40 minutes. Sandra presented the evidence methodically, the Instagram posts with their timestamps, the fake injury photos compared to the real hospital examination, the messages from Operation Inheritance, the financial records showing Kayla's unreported income. Kayla's lawyer tried to argue that the messages were taken out of context and that his client was simply a concerned mother acting on instinct. Judge Kowalski cut him off. "Counselor, your client faked injuries on an infant, filed a false police report, and is currently profiting from a fraudulent fundraising campaign. There is no context that makes that acceptable." She granted all 3 restraining orders. Kayla, Brenda, and the 2 teenagers were prohibited from coming within 500 feet of me or my property. The GoFundMe was ordered frozen pending investigation, and Judge Kowalski referred the case to the prosecutor for criminal charges. "Furthermore," the judge said, looking directly at Kayla, "I'm ordering Child Protective Services to conduct a welfare check on the minor child, Mae Fuller. Using your own infant to stage a false abuse claim raises serious questions about your fitness as a parent." Kayla's face went white. "Your Honor, please, we're done here." Judge Kowalski's gavel came down hard. In the hallway outside, Brenda tried to approach me. Sandra stepped between us immediately. "Don't," Sandra said. "You're violating the restraining order." "Jan, please," Brenda said, her voice shaking. "This got out of hand. I didn't think it would go this far." "You brought your children into it," I said. My voice came out flat, cold. "You taught them to lie under oath. For 10% of my house. I needed the money. We all need money. I needed money when Tom died and I had a 7-year-old to raise alone. I didn't betray family for it." Brenda's face crumpled. Sophia started crying. Ethan pulled his sister away. Sandra guided me toward the exit. "That was good," she said quietly. "Stay strong. We're not done yet." "What's next?" "Criminal charges?" "The DA is filing this afternoon. Kayla and Brenda will be arraigned within 48 hours. She paused. "Brett, too. They're charging Brett? Conspiracy to commit elder abuse, fraud, and filing a false report." He signed the police statement backing up Kayla's story. Sandra looked at me carefully. The DA offered him a deal. If he testifies against Kayla and Brenda, he gets probation and community service. No jail time. And if he doesn't take it? Then he goes to trial with them, and he could get 2 to 5 years. We reached Sandra's car. I stood there in the courthouse parking lot, watching families come and go. A young couple with a baby in a carrier, an elderly man helping his wife up the steps. Normal people with normal problems. "Janice," Sandra said, "the DA needs to know. Do you want Brett to take the deal?" I thought about Brett at 7, crying for his father. Brett at 13 in the dark. Brett at 23 promising to take care of me. I thought about Brett 2 mornings ago, pulling Mia away from me like I was poison. "No," I said. "No deal. He made his choice. He can live with the consequences." Sandra nodded slowly. "You're sure?" I've never been more sure of anything in my life. That night, alone in my house for the first time in 3 days, I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea and made a list. Not a revenge list. I'd never been that kind of person. Just a practical accounting of what needed to happen next. Change the locks. Done. Sandra had arranged it while we were at court. Update my will. Remove Brett as beneficiary. Leave everything to charity. Document everything. Every message. Every post. Every lie. For the trial. Protect myself. Cameras on the property. New security system. At the bottom of the list, I wrote one more thing. Let them go. Not forgiveness. I would never forgive this. But I couldn't carry them anymore. The weight of Brett's betrayal. Kayla's greed. Brenda's envy. It would crush me if I let it. So I wouldn't let it. My phone buzzed. Another text from Brett's borrowed number. Mom, please. I'll testify against them. I'll do whatever it takes. Just please talk to me. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I blocked the number and finished my tea. The arraignment was set for October 3rd, 12 days after they'd taken me away in handcuffs. 12 days that felt like 12 lifetimes. Sandra had prepared me for what to expect. They'll all plead not guilty, she'd said. Standard procedure. Then we go to trial in about 4 months, maybe sooner if the judge fast-tracks it. But I wasn't prepared for what happened the night before the arraignment. Brett showed up at my house at 8:47 p.m. I know the time because I'd just finished watching the evening news, a story about a grandmother in Cincinnati who'd won custody of her grandchildren after her son went to prison for theft. The irony wasn't lost on me. The doorbell rang. My new security camera showed Brett standing on the porch, alone. He looked terrible, unshaven, his shirt wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes that made him look 10 years older. I almost didn't answer. My finger hovered over the intercom button for 30 seconds. Then I opened the door, not because I wanted to hear what he had to say, because I wanted him to see my face when I said no. Mom? He said immediately. Thank God. Please, I need to talk to you. You're violating the restraining order. That's only for Kayla and Brenda. I checked. Please, 5 minutes. I should have closed the door. Everything in me screamed to close the door. But I stepped aside and let him in. He stood in the living room like a stranger, looking around at the space he'd grown up in. His eyes lingered on the mantel, the photo of him and Tom from his 8th birthday, both of them covered in cake frosting. The spelling bee trophy, his high school graduation picture. I've been trying to call you, he said finally. I know. Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know it would go this far. I swear I didn't know. You knew enough. I sat down in Tom's old armchair. I didn't offer Brett a seat. You knew for 7 months. You had 210 days to stop it, to tell me, to warn me. You didn't. Kayla said it would be simple, just a competency evaluation, just enough to get you to agree to estate planning. She said you wouldn't even know about the police report until after, and by then I'd be in custody and she'd have control of my assets. I kept my voice level. I read the messages, Brett. All of them. His face crumpled. I was weak. I let her manipulate me. I was so afraid of losing her, of losing Mia, so you chose to lose me instead. No, Mom, no. I never wanted to lose you. I thought. He ran his hands through his hair. We're drowning. The salon's been losing money for months. We're 3 months behind on rent. Kayla's car got repossessed last week. We have $287 in our checking account. And then she started talking about the house, about how you didn't need all this space, about how we could sell it and everyone would be better off. Everyone meaning her. Everyone meaning all of us. A fresh start. You could get a nice apartment, something easier to maintain. We could pay off our debts, give Mia a stable home, using my house, that I worked 37 years to keep. I leaned forward. Brett, do you know what I was making when your father died? $24,000 a year. Do you know what this house cost us? $89,000 in 1987. We stretched ourselves so thin to buy it. And then Tom was gone. And it was just me and you and a mortgage I could barely afford. I know, Mom. I know you sacrificed. I worked 2 jobs for 11 years, sometimes 3. I wore the same winter coat for 8 years because I couldn't afford a new one. I ate rice and beans 6 days a week so you could have meat. I gave up everything, vacations, retirement savings, my health, so you could have opportunities I never had. And I'm grateful. No, I stood up. You're not. Grateful people don't conspire to have their mothers arrested. Grateful people don't let their wives fake injuries on their own child to frame their grandmother. Grateful people don't send their mothers to jail in pajamas while live streaming it for profit. Brett's face went red. I didn't know she was going to live stream it, but you knew everything else. You knew about the fake injuries. You knew about the police report. You knew about the competency petition. You stood there and watched them put me in handcuffs, and you did nothing. I was scared. I was terrified. My voice cracked. I was sitting in a cell for 38 hours thinking my own son hated me, thinking I'd done something so terrible that you wanted me locked away, Do you have any idea what that feels like? Brett's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. God, Mom, I'm so sorry. I'll make it right. I'll testify against them. I'll tell the prosecutor everything. I'll get Mia away from Kayla. You'll save yourself. I walked to the door and opened it. That's what this is about. The DA offered you a deal, and you want my blessing to take it. No, yes. He wiped his eyes. I want to make things right with you. And if testifying helps, then it doesn't help me, Brett. It helps you. You get probation instead of prison. You get to keep your daughter. You get to walk away from this with barely a scratch while Kayla and Brenda go to jail. They deserve to go to jail. They manipulated me. You're 35 years old. You have a college degree I paid for. You have a brain that works just fine. Nobody held a gun to your head and made you join that group chat. Nobody forced you to stand silent while your wife destroyed my reputation to 89,000 strangers. You chose this, Brett. Every step of the way, you chose this. He stared at me. So what do you want me to do? Go to prison? Lose Mia? Lose everything? I want you to own what you did. Not blame Kayla, not blame your debts, not blame anything except your own choices. I held the door wider. But mostly, I want you to leave. Mom, please, do you know what I realized in that cell? I said quietly. I realized I'd spent 35 years protecting you from consequences. Every time you made a mistake, I fixed it. Every time you struggled, I carried the weight. I taught you that someone would always save you. That you never had to be uncomfortable because Mom would make it better. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. I learned that when your father died, and I had to figure out how to raise you alone on $24,000 a year. You're learning it now. Better late than never. Brett just stood there, tears running down his face. I love you, Mom. I loved you too, I said, past tense, deliberate. But love without respect is nothing. And you lost my respect the moment you let them put me in that police car. Can I see you again? After the trial? No, Mom. I'm 62 years old, Brett. I don't know how many years I have left. However many it is, I'm not spending them waiting for you to become the person I thought you were. That person doesn't exist. Maybe he never did. I stepped back and started to close the door. Brett put his hand on it. What about Mia? He asked, his voice breaking. She's your granddaughter. Don't you want to be in her life? That one hurt. That one hit me right in the chest. Because yes, I wanted to know Mia. I wanted to watch her grow up. I wanted to be the grandmother I'd dreamed of being. But I looked at Brett's face, the desperation, the manipulation, the last-ditch effort to use my own granddaughter as leverage, and I knew the answer. Mia deserves better than parents who taught her that family is a transaction, I said. If you really love her, you'll teach her better than you were taught. But that's not my job anymore. That's yours. I closed the door. He stood on the porch for 3 minutes. I watched on the camera. He knocked twice more, called my name, finally left. I didn't cry. I thought I would, but I didn't. I just sat back down in Tom's chair and felt lighter. Like I'd been carrying something heavy for so long, I'd forgotten what it felt like to put it down. My phone rang. Sandra. Janice, Brett's lawyer just called me. He's taking the DA's deal. He's testifying against Kayla and Brenda in exchange for probation. I know, I said. He just left my house. He came to see you? Sandra's voice sharpened. What did he say? That he's sorry, that he wants to make things right. I looked at the photo on the mantel. 8-year-old Brett covered in cake frosting, happy and innocent. I told him no. Sandra was quiet for a moment. How do you feel? Free, I said, and I meant it. The next morning, at the arraignment, I watched all 3 of them stand before Judge Kowalski. Kayla in a pale pink dress that made her look young and innocent. Brenda in black, trying to look remorseful. Brett in a suit I'd bought him for his college graduation, looking broken. They all pleaded not guilty. Kayla's lawyer made a statement about misunderstandings and mental health concerns for all parties involved. The judge set trial for January 15th. As we left the courtroom, Kayla tried to make eye contact with me. I looked right through her. She didn't exist to me anymore. None of them did. Outside, A reporter from the Dayton Daily News approached me. "Mrs. Fuller, do you have a statement about the charges against your family?" Sandra started to intervene, but I stopped her. "Yes," I said, looking directly into the camera. "I have a statement. For 35 years, I put my family first. I sacrificed everything to give my son opportunities, and when he needed money, I gave him my life savings. I did all of this because I believed family meant loyalty, love, trust. I was wrong. Sometimes the people who hurt you most are the ones you loved best. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away." The reporter's eyes widened. "Are you saying you're cutting ties with your son?" "I'm saying I'm choosing myself." Finally, the trial lasted 6 days. It was February, 4 months after they'd taken me away in handcuffs. 4 months of preparation, depositions, and sleepless nights. Sandra had warned me it would be brutal. She was right. Kayla's lawyer tried to paint her as a devoted mother protecting her child from a mentally unstable grandmother. He showed the Instagram posts, the tearful videos, the messages from concerned followers. He called witnesses who testified that Kayla seemed genuinely afraid. Then Sandra presented the Operation Inheritance messages. All of them, projected on a screen for the jury to read. 7 months of planning. 7 months of calculated cruelty. The courtroom went silent. Brett testified on the second day. He looked like he'd aged 10 years. Thin, hollow-eyed. He admitted everything. The group chat, the fake injuries, the coordinated timing. He cried when he described watching me get arrested. "I'll regret it for the rest of my life," he said. I sat in the gallery and felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just a vast, echoing emptiness where my son used to be. Brenda's testimony was worse. She tried to claim she'd been supporting family and didn't understand the full plan. But Sandra had phone records showing 43 calls between Brenda and Kayla in the month before my arrest, text messages about timing and getting the kids ready, a voicemail where Brenda coached Sophia on exactly what to say to the police. Ethan and Sophia testified too, separately. Both of them cried. Both of them admitted their mother had promised them money. "She said Aunt Janice was old and wouldn't need the house much longer anyway," Ethan said quietly. He was 16, old enough to know better, young enough to be shaped by the adults around him. The jury deliberated for 7 hours. Guilty. All 3 counts for Kayla. Conspiracy to commit elder abuse, filing a false police report, and fraud. Guilty for Brenda on the same charges plus child endangerment for involving minors. Ethan and Sophia were processed through juvenile court separately. Sentencing came 3 weeks later. Judge Kowalski looked at Kayla for a long moment before speaking. "Ms. Reeves Fuller, you used your own infant daughter as a prop in a scheme to defraud and imprison an innocent woman. You monetized your lies to thousands of strangers. You showed no remorse until you were caught. The court sentences you to 18 months in the Ohio Reformatory for Women, followed by 3 years of probation." Kayla's face went white. She started to speak, but her lawyer put a hand on her arm. "Additionally," the judge continued, "Child Protective Services has recommended that you complete a parenting course and undergo psychological evaluation before resuming custody of your daughter. The court concurs. Brenda got 2 years. The courtroom was nearly empty. Most of the Fuller family had stopped coming after the first day, but I was there. I wanted to see it. Brett wasn't charged criminally beyond his plea agreement, but he lost everything anyway. Kayla filed for divorce from jail, claiming Brett had known about everything and was the mastermind. It was a lie, but it destroyed him in the custody hearing. The judge awarded primary custody of Mia to the state temporarily, with supervised visitation for Brett pending psychological evaluation. His employer, a car dealership in Kettering, fired him after the local news ran the story. His apartment lease wasn't renewed. Last I heard through Sandra, he was living in a subsidized 1-bedroom on the east side, working at a grocery store stocking shelves at night. The civil judgments came next. I sued Kayla for the $18,000 she'd taken from me, plus damages. The court awarded me $125,000 total for emotional distress, defamation, and punitive damages. Kayla's salon had already gone bankrupt. The IRS seized what little she had left for the $34,000 in unpaid taxes, plus penalties. She'll be paying me in installments for the rest of her life, assuming she ever makes more than minimum wage again. I sued Brenda, too. Got a judgment for $50,000. She lost her job. Target doesn't keep managers who get convicted of conspiracy. Her house went into foreclosure. Her ex-husband in Indiana took full custody of Ethan and Sophia. The teenagers were sentenced to 240 hours of community service each and 18 months of probation. Part of their sentence included recording a public apology video that was submitted to the court. I never watched it. Sandra said they both seemed genuinely remorseful. I didn't care. Brett tried to contact me 11 times in the months after the trial. Letters, voicemails, messages through Sandra. I never responded. I changed my phone number, changed my email. He sent a card on my birthday, March 14th, with a long handwritten note about how he was in therapy, how he was learning about himself, how he hoped someday I could forgive him. I threw it away without reading past the first line. In April, I did something I'd been planning since the trial ended. I sold the house. The realtor said I could get $340,000, maybe more. I accepted the first offer, $342,000 from a young couple with a newborn. They reminded me of Tom and me, 37 years ago. Hopeful, in love, believing the house would protect them from the world. I hoped it would. I hoped they'd have better luck than I did. I bought a 2-bedroom apartment in a 55-plus community in Beaver Creek. Smaller, easier to maintain, safe. The building has a doorman and security cameras. No one gets in without clearance. With the money left over, about $190,000 after paying off the last of my mortgage and covering moving costs, I did 3 things. First, I established an irrevocable trust for myself. Sandra set it up so that no one, not even Brett, could touch it. It generates enough income that I'll never have to worry about money again. Second, I took a cruise, 12 days in the Caribbean. Tom and I had always talked about it, but we could never afford it. I went alone, sat on the deck watching the ocean and felt the weight of 35 years finally lift off my shoulders. Third, I donated $50,000 to the Montgomery County Elder Abuse Prevention Program in Tom's name. They sent me a thank you letter and asked if I'd be willing to speak at their annual fundraiser. I said yes. The fundraiser was in September, almost exactly a year after my arrest. There were 140 people there. Lawyers, social workers, families who'd been through similar situations. I told my story from beginning to end. The $18,000, the group chat, the handcuffs, the betrayal. When I finished, the room was silent for 5 full seconds. Then someone started clapping. Then everyone was standing, and I realized I was crying. And for the first time in a year, they were good tears. A woman approached me afterward, 73 years old. Her daughter had tried to have her declared incompetent to get her house. I thought I was alone, she told me. Thank you for making me feel less alone. That's when I knew I'd done the right thing. Not just pressing charges, not just walking away from Brett, but speaking up, making noise, refusing to disappear quietly. The local paper ran a story about my speech. They didn't use Brett's name. I'd asked them not to. But anyone who'd followed the trial knew who I was talking about. I didn't do it to hurt him. I did it to help the next grandmother who might be sitting in a cell wondering how her family could do this to her. Brett saw the article. I know because he sent one final letter in October. Mom, I saw what you're doing. I'm proud of you. I know I have no right to say that, but I am. You're helping people. You're making a difference. I'm in therapy twice a week now. I have supervised visitation with Mia every Saturday. She's walking now, saying words. I wish you could see her. I wish things were different. I understand why you can't forgive me. I don't forgive me either. But I want you to know I'm trying to be better. For Mia, for myself, maybe someday for you too, if you ever change your mind. Love, Brett. I read it 3 times. Then I put it in a box with the others and stored it in the back of my closet. Not because I planned to respond. Because someday, maybe 20 years from now, someone might need to understand what happened. Why I made the choices I made, but I didn't write back. It's November now. Just over a year since that morning in my pajamas. I'm 63 years old, I live alone in a bright apartment with a balcony overlooking a small garden. I have new friends, Dorothy from 3B who plays bridge, Margaret from 4A who survived her own family nightmare and understands without me having to explain. Yesterday, Dorothy asked if I had children. I paused for just a second. Then I said, I had a son once, but I learned that some relationships are poison disguised as love. Now I have peace instead, and that's worth more. She nodded like she understood completely. Maybe she did. This morning, I'm sitting on my balcony with coffee and the newspaper. There's a story about a grandmother in Columbus who just won a lawsuit against her son for elder financial abuse. I clip it and add it to my collection. 23 stories now. I keep them as reminders that I'm not alone, that what happened to me happens to thousands of women every year, but it doesn't define me anymore. I am Janice Mae Fuller. I am 63 years old. I survived 37 years in a house I loved and a betrayal I never saw coming. I survived handcuffs and headlines and a family that wanted me erased. And now I'm free. Not because I forgave them, not because time healed everything, but because I chose myself, finally, completely, without apology. The sun is coming up over Beaver Creek. Dorothy just texted asking if I want to go to the farmer's market. I text back yes. I finish my coffee. I close the newspaper. I stand up and stretch and feel, for the first time in longer than I can remember, like the world is full of possibility instead of pain. Brett is out there somewhere, stocking shelves, visiting his daughter on Saturdays, trying to rebuild a life from the ashes of his choices. Kayla is in prison, counting down days until release. Brenda is in her own apartment somewhere, alone and broke and bitter, and I am here, in my home that no one can take from me, with my peace that no one can touch. That's not a happy ending. It's better. It's a free one.